internal clients as well as external clients. That's all sort of coming up as we kind of get this lab established. But mostly what I want to talk about today is my collaborations with other people on the various campuses that I've worked with, that I've worked on, especially with GIS librarians, because I've done a lot of teaching and I've worked in some different capacities. And I think that there are some interesting opportunities that people could really take advantage of. Next slide, please. Let's see. I'm realizing my setup here at home, because I usually teach on campus, but because I'm at home, it's not the same. Here we go. Now I can see the slides. Great. Actually, we should be on the, yes, this one. Thank you. So I'm currently in a geography department. So I've always worked at institutions that have geography departments. And in the past, I have worked in libraries. For a year, I worked at the University of Colorado Boulder, where I was actually a postdoc, which is considered a faculty role, but it had a lot of staff responsibilities that was in the library, so not in the geography department. And then previous to that, I worked at the University of California, Berkeley, as both faculty and staff. So I was both the cartography lecturer and the staff cartographer. And my current role is actually staff, but I also teach full semester courses. So I have a staff role with faculty responsibilities. So I've worked in geography departments and I've worked, in libraries, but I've done both faculty and staff work. Next slide, please. So one thing that one reason actually I thought this panel would be really interesting to be a part of is that I've always spent a lot of time collaborating with folks outside the department for the teaching that I've done. And one of those major collaborations, of course, is with librarians. So when I worked at UC Berkeley, I often relied on Susan Powell, who is the GIS and Maps librarian there. She would come in and do guest lectures in my classes. She would help us find data. She would show us the different maps in the map library, things like that. And then similarly, now that I'm at the University of Colorado, Denver, I rely on Diane Fritz, who is our geospatial data scientist here, as well, to come in and talk to my students about finding data. She does some guest lecturing on QGIS. She is available for consultations for finding data, all that kind of stuff. So it's been really nice to have these resources in my teaching. And the other resource that I rely on here at the University of Colorado, Denver is what's called the FAST Lab, which is the Facility for Advanced Spatial Technology. And this is the teaching lab where all the GIS courses take place. And that is another resource for students. So this is where they actually hire students as consultants and they can answer questions about technologies and various analyses and various things from different classes that students are taking. And so that's a wonderful resource as well. And the coordinator of the FAST Lab is another person who I work closely with in developing programs and things like that around geospatial on campus. So all of this is to say there's a lot of opportunity for collaborations. And I've been the person that has told people on my campus currently, hey, did you know we have a geospatial librarian? She can help us find data. She's really great. And so I think people just don't know that resource exists a lot of time. So anyway, that's been really great. And then the other thing I will say is that the year that I worked in the libraries at the University of Colorado Boulder, I worked in the Center for, I always forget the name of it, and I'm not actually looking at the slide. The Center for, Center for Research Data and Digital Scholarship. And I think that the challenge there, what I sort of learned from working in the library itself. The challenge there is really just the building awareness of the resources that we have in the library. And I think that that's an interesting challenge that, you know, from that perspective, was because there is a geography department on Boulder's campus as well. So, you know, it was an interesting challenge to try to get the word out that we do have these resources in the library as well. Next slide, please. So I think some of the new opportunities that exist that are really great is that we do have a lot more support from outside geography departments. And I argue that even if your university has a geography department, it's still worthwhile to take advantage of this. So folks in the library, and then of course lab and IT staff, similar to what I have here at the University of Colorado, Denver. And I've had colleagues at other universities say how envious they are at all the resources that I can rely on here, which, you know, it is very nice. The challenges, as I said, are building awareness of these resources on campus, and then of course collaborating with folks in different roles with different priorities. So staff collaborating with faculty or students, it can sometimes be, you know, everybody has something different they're trying to achieve. So I think that that is one challenge as well. And I just have a couple of images up here of the GIS day that we organized. It was a multi-campus GIS day for the last couple of years, which has mostly been folks working in the library in these GIS librarian capacities, which is as well as geography instructors at both Boulder and CU Denver, as well as last year, Colorado Springs as well. Next slide, please. And so I think the impact that I see is that these new service models do take the burden off of faculty to be the only resource for students' geospatial education, which, I mean, for me personally, I think is great. I love having additional people come in and talk to the students. I love having students be able to go to someone else for help that's not just me, not just the TA. I think that's really useful for faculty. And I also see more opportunities for staff to interact with faculty and students and work collaboratively on research and teaching, which I think is another great opportunity for staff to get more involved in the research process and teaching students, which a lot of times is the reason that folks work on a university campus. So with that, I will say thank you, and I look forward to the discussion, and I'll turn it over to the next person.
Thank you.
I believe that's me. Good morning, very early morning, everybody. I'm Patricia Carvajales-Dale, and I'm representing the Clemson Center for Geospatial Technologies. Go Tigers. I know David have family that came to Clemson, so we're not that much rivals, right? I think our center is a little bit different. It's a partnership between IT and libraries. And, you know, previously, before coming to Clemson, I worked fully as a geospatial manager in a library setting. And I have to say, I really see some benefit